You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Graham, let's talk about the last pillar, and that's play better. And you mentioned it is a mindset of always learning and growing, and of optimism underpinned by daily habits that build reliable consistency in your game instead of highs and lows. Cricket is a game of learning and developing, and you're learning all the time. And it's important to learn from your experiences as a cricketer. But some cricketers don't even bother learning. They just get complacent, stuck in their ways. They don't want to get better. You talked about having a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, and you say that's an important topic to discuss and talk about.
Yeah.
And you say that talent and ability aren't fixed, but we can learn and get better by putting in the effort. You also talked about how developing good routines, rituals, and habits can have an impact on a player on game day. What they do during the week can really help them in terms of their routines on the field. And lastly, you talked about bringing optimism, and we see life through a different filter lens, either optimistic or pessimistic. And you say optimism can be developed and learned, as you mentioned in the book. So the three core principles that you mentioned in the book about play better is apply a growth mindset, be game ready, bring optimism. So, Graham, how do all of these principles contribute to achieving a play better mindset?
I probably answered a little bit of it in the previous bit. It's the ability to learn. So one of the things I guess I notice, I think we've got better over the recent years, but so much of the cricket commentary that we've heard over the years has been this guy can't play test cricket, or this woman can't play one-day cricket, or whatever, which is the antithesis of what, again, experience and research tells us. People get better. So rather than they can't do it, I prefer the not yet. They're not yet at that level. So it's such a simple fundamental. It's one of those sort of psychological concepts, growth mindset, that is so damn obvious. Excuse me. The question is, have I reached my limit, or can I get better? Well, the answer is, if you believe you can get better, you can get better. And that whole concept of bringing a growth mindset into a coaching program, bringing it into cricket, but I don't think cricket necessarily as a sport has a particularly good growth mindset. I think sometimes the sense that the golden years of cricket are behind us, as I think I've said in some heated conversations occasionally with ex-cricketers, we'll be saying, well, we were better in the 1980s or 90s. You go, well, you're the only sport in the world that's got worse, because every other sport, the participants are more athletic, they hit the ball faster, harder, more accurately, they perform at a far greater level. And to consider that a tennis player in the 1980s could beat a current day player is just insane. So do we really think that that's the case with cricket? So I think that bringing a growth mindset is fundamental. Secondly, optimism. Optimism isn't positive thinking. Optimism is that ability to, when bad stuff happens to you, to be able to regather again, and rather than say, well, it happened because I'm not good and I'm never going to be good and I just don't have the ability. It's like, hey, I gave it a shot and I wasn't good enough at this stage, but I can work on that and I can improve. And again, you can start to hear the voice of the coach versus the voice of the critic. So to me, play better, if you were to put to a fundamental, it's recognizing that we all have an inner critic. We also, unfortunately, have others around us who are going to provide that criticism at times, but we can get better. And if we can perhaps our own sort of dialogue is more about being an inner coach and giving yourself credit that I can get better and I can improve, and I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect, but I can move ahead. To me, that's the critical thing. So hence when you put those four pillars together, you start to then go, okay, well, if I can bring a clear mind with my focus in the present, and I'm brave enough to be able to take some risks, I'm clever enough to be able to read the game, but also humble enough to know that I'm going to keep learning and developing and I can get better, then you bring the four elements that are going to bring out the best, and you're going to enjoy your cricket more. common sense says that's the case versus, well, my mind's scrambled, I'm worried about things, I'm not really reading what's going on in the game, I'm just going to do what I've always done. And, well, if I can't do it now, I'll never be able to do it. It's a very fatalistic way of approaching it. And I think cricketers can learn a lot for cricket and life by bringing those four elements together.
Absolutely. And it's just about having fun and trying to get better and enjoy the great game, which is cricket, isn't it? Isn't that right?
It is. It's not, it doesn't have to be psychology. It's good parenting. It's just thinking, well, what would you like to encourage your kids to do? Well, I'd like to think that they have a growth mindset. They believe that they can get better at anything that they set their mind at, that they see things in a more optimistic rather than a pessimistic way. And that if they want to do something, that they're going to go and prepare themselves and give themselves the best chance of doing it. Kind of sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
It does. And cricket's a great life teacher as well. It teaches us many life lessons.
Absolutely.
That we can implement in our lives. That's why it's a wonderful game. And you're
Absolutely.
always learning something new in cricket every day, even by watching or playing, or even me talking to you today.
Yeah, I agree. If you can't learn something from cricket, I think the growth mindset's not there.
Yeah, that's right. Graham, hi everyone. Hope you enjoyed our cricket discussion with former first-class cricketer and sports psychologist Graham Winter. If you want to improve and get better as a cricketer, I highly recommend reading Graham's book, Mindful Cricket. After reading the book myself, I learnt loads about the mental side of cricket and how by having the right mindset can help you to be the best cricketer you can possibly be. Head over to Mindful Cricket to get a copy of the book. Link to Mindful Cricket website is in the description.